Hello again, everyone. This is Jason Lane with Fishbowl Solutions. We're going to go ahead and get started. And in today's webinar, we're going to be discussing the Fishbowl-to-Go mobile application for Oracle Web Center content. So again, I'm Jason Lehman. I'm the marketing team lead here at Fishbowl Solutions, and I'm happy to be joined by my colleague, Kim Nagard. Kim is actually going to be giving a demonstration and covering most of the information regarding the specifics around Fishbowl-to-Go mobile application a little later on in the presentation. So here's our agenda for today's discussion. We're going to take a few quick moments to talk about who is Fishbowl Solutions. We'll also look at some of the drivers and mobility trends, specifically as it applies to the content management industry or market. As I mentioned, Kim will go into the more specifics around Fishbowl-to-Go mobile application. She'll also be doing a demo, and then sharing some use cases as you look to apply and kind of set your business use case for mobile applications, especially with your smartphone, how you can start to think about doing that. And then at the end of the presentation, we'll have some questions. So I also wanted to take a moment for housekeeping items. So first and foremost, if you do have a question that you want to ask during the presentation, we're taking all those questions through the GoToMeeting interface. So there's a little box for questions if you want to type those in there. We have someone monitoring those questions as they come in, and then at the end of the discussion today, at the end of the webinar, we'll kind of cycle through those questions and then answer them accordingly. For those that we don't get to, we'll do our best to answer those questions kind of offline, and we'll use our Fishbowl C4 blog for that. Additionally, the webinar is being recorded, so if you did want to share this with a colleague or listen to it again, it is being recorded. Anyone that registered for the webinar will be sent a link to the recording within a few days after our broadcast here today. So with that, I'm just going to cover a little bit about who Fishbowl Solutions is. So Fishbowl Solutions is an Oracle Web Center content and portal specialized partner. We specifically focus on developing value-add software and providing those services to Oracle Web Center customers. Very proud that we've done a lot of implementations over the last few years, over 100 in fact within the last 2. The components that we develop are not only more value-add specific to Web Center content, workflow and security and things like that, but then also, other ways that you can deploy and extend Web Center. And that leads directly to our conversation today and extending Oracle Web Center content to mobile devices, including smartphones. So Fishbowl is a very innovative company. Not only our mobile applications that we're talking about today, and I think it was about a month ago at this time that we were talking about our tablet application, but we also have other solutions available for integrating Oracle Web Center content with Oracle Web Center portal and building out that next generation corporate intranet or portal for organizations. We also want to help organizations with Web Center access and quickly find and consume that critical information as quickly as possible. And one of the ways we're helping customers do that is by bringing Google into the enterprise. So we have an integration between the Google Search Appliance and Web Center as well. And really what we want to do is help organizations maximize their Web Center investments. So what we have as well is an offering to get customers off the legacy versions of Web Center all the way back to Stellent up to 11G, so you can really leverage and harness the new capabilities of Web Center. But for today's discussion, we really want to focus on those mobile solutions that Fishbowl has developed. And what I wanted to share here quickly is just a little bit of a historical context on Fishbowl's focus in this area for developing mobile applications. And that really started around 2010. I think it was early 2010 where, again, as an innovative company, we're looking at other ways to deploy and extend Web Center. And one of those ways we looked at was a smartphone. The Apple's first release of the iPhone was in 2007. Smartphone growth really took off, and I'll actually share some historical stats about that a little bit later. And we're thinking, well, why not an app for Web Center? So we actually came up with our first proof of concept for a Web Center smartphone application or phone application back in 2010. Kind of in parallel with that, we're also doing development for tablet applications. And we began working with a medical device manufacturer then to develop a tablet application where you could extend WebCenter content and have content from WebCenter. Users could navigate and consume that information from tablets, including the Apple iPad. That medical device manufacturer actually deployed their solution in 2011. They've ramped that use case up quite dramatically. They have over 6,000 users today. And kind of that use case, that specific use case of really extending content management, where you went from more of a departmental solution where WebCenter was used by 50 to 100 people to really broaden it for adoption across thousands of people. And that use case and the benefits that that company received helped them and Fishbowl collectively win the Forrester Groundswell Award, so we were really proud of that. Kind of leveraging and piggybacking off our success with that company, we also worked with Banner Engineering to develop their tablet application as well. So kind of a similar use case, extending content to WebCenter for their sales reps to consume and share information, including brochures, product videos, product specifications, things like that with their customers right on site from a very interactive platform, including the Apple iPad and Android tablets as well. We've also released since then some applications that are available on the various stores, including the Apple App Store and the Android and Google Play. So, for example, our FishbowlToGo application is available on both of those stores, and the free version. So we're going to talk about the free version and the premium version of that application today. The free version is available on those stores for you to download and demo. So I wanted to start off kind of giving some business perspective on, why, with the increased use of smartphones, why businesses are really thinking about, enabling their users, their employees with the ability to consume business content and complete business tasks with smartphone and other mobile devices. And really, if you think about the business world of today, there's so much more information available to consume and share. And people like us, employees, we just want that information as quickly. We want access to that information as quickly and effortlessly as possible. We want to quickly search and find information relevant to both our personal and business situations. So traditionally, this has been done through the desktop or laptop, where we sit down and access our company's, content management system or intranet, and then when we're at home, searching for our next vacation destination or, pair of shoes, as my wife likes to do. With the rise of mobile devices, including Apple's iPhone, users are now able to access and consume information anywhere. And it's their ability to do this, which at first was mostly a personal activity, that's crossed over into the business world as well. So what we'll take a look at in the next few slides is why this has occurred, what's fueling this growth. But in general, what we're seeing happening in today's business world is that workers are looking for and really demanding something referred to as a screen transition, or their ability to utilize multiple form factors or devices that provide similar functionality to access content and complete work tasks. So I don't think it should come as a surprise to anyone that smartphones are popular. In fact, you probably know more people today that use a smartphone than those that don't. Industry statistics for the mobile market state that of the 5 billion plus mobile users in the world, 1.5 of them are on smartphones. And one anecdote that stood out to me as I was researching some stats regarding mobile and smartphones was that it was expected that in certain countries in Africa, people would have mobile devices before they would have access to running water. So think about that for a second. So they don't have running water, no access to running water, some of the privileges that we have here in the United States, but they have access to purchase and use a mobile phone. And smartphone sales are booming. Smartphone sales largely outpace consumer and corporate PC sales by almost 3 to 1. Smartphone sales are expected to continue to grow, while PCs are expected to remain flat. That means that most people, when given the choice of purchasing a new PC or smartphone, have been and will continue to choose a smartphone purchase. Smartphones also represent the starting place for most online activity. So this means that users are searching for information, browsing the internet, shopping, planning the trip, and participating in social media first with their smartphones than any other device. So I mentioned above in one of the bullets how fast smartphone growth has occurred. One other stat that caught my eye and I wanted to share was that it was expected by 2017 that smartphone use will outpace population, literacy, PC, and tablet growth combined. So again, think about that for a second. It really is becoming obvious that smartphones are becoming an integral part of people's everyday lives. And we're seeing this growth in the business sector as well. So I mentioned this concept of screen transition. More and more smartphones have become available, and now employees, users, workers are looking to always stay ahead of their work as much as possible, and they've started to use them more and more to complete work-related tasks. So since 2010, this has increased about 20% for users that are using their smartphones to complete work-related tasks. So the business climate of today is one where mobile enablement is key, and being connected to that business information and tasks is really critical. So the business is really, realizing that to satisfy their customers and partners and obtain new business is no longer that traditional 8-to-5 or 9-to-5 job. It is increasingly becoming a 24-hour activity. So workers, in general, are using smartphones to keep up and try to get ahead. And they're telling their companies that they can be more productive if they're enabled with a smartphone or other mobile device and any relevant applications for work-related tasks. You're really seeing this across the different mobile worker personas. So we're going to take a look at on this slide by starting with the mobile information workers in the top left corner, and we'll kind of move clockwise around from there. So mobile information workers, such as consultants, are using smartphones, as they go from client to client, to view their client schedules, their own schedules, and project-related information before they actually are on site and when they're moving to their next location. All that information that might be stored, again, back on an intranet or a content management system, they're looking to access that information as well. Mobile task workers, such as field service employees, they're using their smartphones to view part or service information as they arrive on client sites. They may also be taking pictures of broken parts or equipment and attaching those pictures to a service or maintenance requisition. So you have all that information regarding what the broken part is, and then you also have the benefit of looking at the picture to see exactly what that part looks like. The mobile mavericks in the bottom right corner, such as field service employees, general managers, they're on the move frequently. So they're traveling from client to client. They're frequently checking their calendars. They might be approving expense reports and purchases, all important tasks that they need to perform, but no longer do they need to be in the office to do so. And even the last category, which the graphic here is calling mobile wannabes, they're expected to grow on their smartphone use as well. The example I'll mention here is that is executive assistants. So the tasks that they're asked to perform at the office can now be done on the go as well. This can be as simple as ordering lunch for a client meeting and then booking transportation for the clients to get to the airport. So really, to summarize, smartphone growth is occurring across the mobile workforce, and it's occurring within the various mobile personas that are defined here. So the last topic I wanted to discuss before turning it over to Kim was how the availability of mobile apps is also helping fuel that smartphone growth. So another statistic for everyone is that the Android app market surpassed 400,000 applications available back in December of 2011. And it's expected that by 2016, there will be over 80 billion downloads of applications across the Android and Apple application stores. And business apps are becoming more and more available as well. Email applications have been around for many, many years, and today there are apps available for such systems as CRM and Salesforce automation. So these are critical systems that have been traditionally confined to that desktop or laptop, and where you're tethered by a network cable in most cases. And so the developers of these applications are responding to customer demands and really the competitive landscape of the world's economy to ensure that users can access and perform those critical tasks, critical business tasks, regardless of time and space, or device in this case. So in the next section of the presentation, Kim will share with you the capabilities of the Fishbowl-to-Go mobile application, and now how that application can help you as well remain connected to high-value content stored in Oracle WebCenter. So what I wanted to leave everyone with, though, is that Fishbowl does have many mobile options available. I mentioned the tablet application. We gave a webinar on that about a month ago. That's really a virtual binder for content on your iPad or Android device. It allows you to get that content and navigate that content, perform searches against the content server, WebCenter content, and then set up custom folders or user-created folders that you can easily navigate to. As an example, when you're visiting a particular client, you could have a client folder set up and put client-specific information into those folders offline. So that's a key capability with that application is not only can you sync back to get the most relevant content, but you can also store content in an offline mode for sharing when you don't have network access or connectivity. Just quickly on responsive design, so we also have solutions that enable you to make your sites responsive in the sense that they'll adapt to the various form factors that you're viewing the content on. The FishbowlToGo phone app, which we'll be focusing on today, and Kim will go into much more detail about that. And then custom mobile applications, so tailored to your specific use case, integrated with WebCenter, but still leveraging the Fishbowl API. So again, Kim will cover the FishbowlToGo mobile application in just a few moments. So before I turn it over to you, Kim, I think we have a poll that we wanted to launch. Is that correct here, or we're going to wait for after the demo?
We'll launch it right before we go to the demo.
Okay, so then I'm going to turn it over to Kim. So Kim, it's all yours.
Thanks, Jason. So what is FishbowlToGo? FishbowlToGo is a native app for iPhone and Android, and it's really for accessing items stored in WebCenter content. And this app is available, the free version is available right now out on the iTunes Store and the Google Play Store. So before I hop into the demo, I want to cover a little bit about, what it does and why you would want to use a mobile app to access items stored in Oracle WebCenter. So kind of the top 5 reasons why, things we've heard from customers in the last several years, as Jason mentioned, working on mobile, why you'd want to access items from WebCenter on a mobile device, and why we created this app. The first one being really enabling mobile access to crucial information. So all the important content that you store in Oracle WebCenter, making that available outside of the office walls, outside of places where you might carry around a laptop. So that's your documents, it could be your policies, procedures, reports, project plans if you're at a customer site working on a project, whether that's a construction project or implementing software, being able to see important items around that when you're on site, getting at presentations to share with customers, images, and then video. So in the past, it would generally be carry around a laptop or print out paper. So having it on your phone is obviously lighter weight than carrying a laptop or heavy paper. It's also more interactive than paper. So in the case of a presentation, you could print it off and hope that it doesn't get updated. But with video files, you can't exactly print those off. So having a platform like a phone allows you to use more interactive multimedia and take that with you on the go. So the second reason why you'd want to have that content with you outside of the office is really to help reduce business process bottlenecks. So the content that is stored in Oracle WebCenter usually enables important business processes, and by extending that, you can help eliminate those bottlenecks. So for example, contracts. Many customers are storing contracts of various types inside Oracle WebCenter. When those get renewed or added in, they need to be approved with various workflows. And there might be managers or executives who are not at their desk, if they're bouncing between meetings or visiting with different clients and other shareholders. And so by being able to look at those things on their phone, you eliminate the wait time that things are stuck in workflow or waiting to get back, and it makes it more likely that those contracts might actually get reviewed because you have you're ensuring that someone's going to see them. You have time to make changes if something needs to be altered, rather than waiting to the last minute. Someone realizes, oh, it's still in workflow. Well, we don't have any time left, so we just got to push it through the way that it is. And in addition to check-in bottlenecks. So how many times has someone who's out of the office said, oh, well, I have that on my laptop. I'll check it in when I get back. They might forget. They might, it might be a couple weeks before they remember, and someone else was hoping to see that document, but they never got to it, versus being able to just grab it right off their phone and check it right in from wherever they're at. And then having access to something if it comes up. I couldn't remember what the process was, so ... I guessed, or I did nothing, or I waited around. You're, again, by having access to, say, a project plan or a schedule, or who am I supposed to contact if this happens, or what am I supposed to do, what's the policy in this certain situation. If you can look that right up, then you're not guessing or waiting for someone else to tell you the answer. So the next reason why we created an app is to make those content management activities convenient. You might be thinking, well, I need to know what the policy is. I could always, open up my browser on my phone, log in, swipe around on the menus, find the item, and look at it from my phone. But a lot of people are just not going to do that. We've found that most people we've talked to never use Oracle Web Center from their phone because the internet interface just isn't designed to function on a mobile device. And so by having an app, you're encouraging people to actually do these activities outside of the office because you're making it convenient and easy. Think of how easy it is to check your email on your phone. The goal is to make mobile content management activities just that easy. So certainly you could look at a workflow item or find a document from your mobile browser, but it's certainly not designed to do so, and so the amount of users who are actually going to go through the trouble to do that is very low. The other difference with why you'd want an app, it's more convenient. Certain capabilities wouldn't be available through a web browser, such as check-in, hooking into the native camera, or hooking into something like your email app where you might have attachments that you want to get checked in. With something like Safari browser on the iPhone, you're not able to do that. You can be able to do that. And I know many of you on the phone today come from the IT side of the house, so you're probably getting requests from users for various things, mobility likely one of them. We've talked to a lot of people on the IT side who want to discourage ad hoc workarounds. Customers want ways to get at stuff on their mobile phone. End users want to be able to see their documents when they're away from the office. And if they want it bad enough and there's not an official way to do so, then they'll come up with their own way. And in a lot of cases, that means taking, confidential company information, proprietary information, and sticking it out in a Dropbox account or putting it out on Google Drive so that when they're out of the office, they can still see those materials. The problem with that is you're now outside of IT control. In some cases, those third-party cloud providers actually now have certain rights to your documents. They might be able to see proprietary information. So by providing an official way to access your content outside of the office, you are going to discourage people from putting content where it shouldn't be. And finally, the last reason why we created FishbowlToGo is to really help make unproductive time productive. There's a lot of times when someone can be waiting, waiting in line, waiting to pick up your kids, waiting for a meeting to start, and one of your colleagues is running late. And so many times to sit in meetings, people are sitting on their phone, they're checking their email, they're doing other things, checking their social media. By making content management from mobile devices easy, then they can just as easily be approving a workflow item or checking on something that they got attached in the email that should really be put into the content server. By making it really easy to do that, you encourage people to use that kind of dead time, unproductive time to do something productive rather than just sitting and waiting around. So what you're going to see here in the demo at a high level is these types of functionality. So everything you're going to see, this is all happening within Oracle Web Center. So you can search for your content, you can view documents, create favorites so you can get to things easier in the future, and then we'll show checking in new content and reviewing items in workflow. So while we transition here, I'm going to go ahead and kick off a poll question. So if you all wouldn't mind answering this poll question, we'd really appreciate it. It should now be showing up on your screen. So the question is, do you use your mobile phone for business purposes? And then if you do, kind of what do you use it for? And if not, we'd like to know that as well.
So we'll give it another minute, I think, as everyone has a chance to answer the poll question. Obviously, not surprising, most of the people that are responding use email. Like I said, apps have been available pretty much since Apple released their iPhone back in 2007 for email. But also encouraging to see some of those line of business applications, which I mentioned earlier, which are critical, processes that are critical to the organization. Kim, if you've noticed, a lot of people responding to that as well, that they're using them. So, and even content management. So it's great that you're actually thinking about your use case from a content management perspective as it applies to a smartphone and an application. All right, I think everyone's had a chance to answer the poll question, so Kim will close the poll and then she'll transition over to her demo.
All right, so I'm going to start out by showing the screen you would see when you first initially install the app. So this is what you would see when you download it off iTunes. Go ahead and enter your content server URL. I'm going to do that. Go ahead and press connect. Now I'm going to log in. So now I'm inside of Fishbowl.toGo app. I'm connected to my content server. And so I'm going to go ahead and search for some content. So I can see here the latest 20 things that I have in my content server. I'm going to go ahead and take a look at this vacation request procedure. I can tell it's a PDF. Choose that. From here you can do all the normal viewing options. If I want to get at this later, I can add it to my favorites. So now this is added to my list of favorite items. From here I could also use the opening capabilities. So now I can see all the other apps that I have installed that can open PDFs. If I want to go ahead and open it in Adobe Reader, I can do that. At this point, I could use the normal, capabilities with this app. So I'll switch back to Fishbowl.toGo. I have my procedure document here. I can also view the associated metadata for this item. So from the information page, I can get the document info checked in the content server, so I can see this document is associated with the Human Resources Department. And I can also access the native or web viewable files. So by default, when I clicked on it, I got the, one second. When I clicked on it, I got the web viewable rendition, but I can also get the native file if I wanted to do that. I'll just pause for a second and let my simulator catch up.
Thanks for your patience, folks. Kim just switching over to a different demo instance. Should be back up here in just a second. Again, we're going to mention at the end of the presentation today, but some of the stuff that she showed is available as with the free version of Fishbowl.toGo, including connecting your content server and doing searches.
All right, we're back here now. So sorry about that, folks. All right, so go ahead and do a search. I can easily add items to favorites to get at them later. So I'm going to go ahead and add my vacation request procedure to my favorites. I can see which items are my favorites here, and I'll go over there, and I can get at these items easily. So that would be useful for things like if you have a project plan for, if you're currently on a couple of projects, you might have 5 or 6 documents you're constantly referencing for those particular projects. You can add all of those items to your favorites, so then you can quickly reference them on the go. Next thing I want to show here is check-in. So with FishbowlToGo, you can check in items from both your device's built-in photo library as well as your camera, in addition to checking in items from other apps and uploading those into WebCenter. So I'll just walk through a sample check-in scenario here. So what I can do is I can go into my photo library. I can choose a photo. Here's one of us, the Fishbowl office playing some foosball. So I can pick now from any of the configured check-in profiles that I have access to. In this case, I'm checking in a photo, so I pick the check-in photo profile. I can also check things in as presentations. In this case, I have a couple of different projects I'm on, so I have project check-in profiles for items related to those particular projects. And so for this photo, I'm going to go ahead and choose the photo check-in. Now, I'll show a screenshot once I go back to the presentation of how that actually gets set up. But for this particular case, all I have to do is enter a title. So I'll call this Foosball at Fishbowl. And I'll go ahead and check that in. All right, so now that item has gotten checked in, we have photos set up to go into workflow. So now I will show you the workflow approval process. So if I refresh my list of workflow items, I have a photo in my workflow called Foosball at Fishbowl. So from here, I can view the workflow information, remaining reviewers, this admin. In the picture review workflow, I can also view the metadata. It got checked in with comments of FishbowlToGo mobile photo upload. So now if I want to go ahead and view this item, I say, all right, that looks good. I can approve it. Go ahead and confirm my workflow approval. And now that item has disappeared from my workflow queue. If I go back over to my search results, I can see that item is now released for general consumption. So at this point, what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch back to my presentation. And I'm going to cover some additional use cases for FishbowlToGo for some other scenarios. So you saw the process of checking in a photo. And so what I walked through in the demo was pretty basic photo check-in, pick from your photo library and check that in. So there's other ways you could extend that to do other types of check-ins. So one of those might be invoices. If you have employees who are getting invoices emailed to them, they need to get those checked in to kick off other processes. So you could set up an invoice check-in profile. So what you would do is, so as part of the premium app, administrators have the ability to create mobile check-in profiles. And what that does is it says, these are the values I want to let people, I want to present to the user when they're doing the check-in. And then you can apply any additional metadata behind the scenes, because if you've ever filled out a long form on a cell phone, it's not very pleasant. Trying to type on a tiny keyboard and get your finger in just a little right spot to pick fields. So doing this on through the mobile web browser is not a very easy user experience. So the goal is to make it as easy as possible while still allowing any important metadata that needs to be assigned to happen. So this is the screen for the example I'm going to show. In this case, we're checking something in as a type of invoice. We want to allow the user to provide a title and comments. And then behind the scenes, we want to apply the Department of IT and English as well as a type of invoice. So this would kind of be a sample configuration for a check-in. And what that process would look like is, say I get an email to me with an invoice attached, and I need to check that in. Right from my phone, I can go ahead and pick that invoice. I'll be able to see it from the phone, and then I can choose the open in functionality, which will allow me to see all the apps that can open a PDF, of which Fishbowl2Go is one of them. So I can choose Fishbowl2Go, which will launch the check-in prompt. At this point, I can review the item, make sure that is really, in fact, what I want to check in. Assuming it is, I'll go ahead and hit check-in. And then I'm presented with my list of check-in profiles. So at this point, I'm checking in an invoice for some software, so I want to check in as an IT invoice. I'll be presented with the check-in form, which, based on the configuration from the previous slide we saw, was title and comments. So I'll go ahead and enter a title and comments, and I'll check it in. It'll go ahead and upload. It'll let me know when it's complete. And then if I go and look at the metadata on that document, I'd be able to see, okay, so this document got checked in as an invoice. Here's my comment. There's the Department of IT and my language. So the fields that I provided, as well as the fields provided by the profile. And really, why would you want to do this? It's all about expediting the process, so making it easier for people to get important documents into the system. In order to, for example, with an invoice, you want to get your invoices in sooner so that you can reduce that cycle time. That can mean taking advantage of discount periods. If you have 30 days to pay the invoice and get a discount, you want to get that in as soon as possible, because you want to make that available for other approvers, and in a lot of cases kick off a workflow. So you have to first get it into the system in order to kick that off. So instead of someone saying, well, I'll be back in the office tomorrow, I'll be back in the office in 2 days, and I'll check it in then from my laptop, this way they can just check it right in from the mobile device. So that naturally lends itself to mobile workflow review. I showed in demo, when you are in the app, you can see a list of all the items that are awaiting your review in workflow, which is one way to process things that you're assigned to review. But the other common way would be the standard email that you'd receive from Oracle WebCenter content saying you have this item in workflow awaiting your review. So I'm sure many of you who use workflow are familiar with these emails. So if I'm now the person who needs to approve that invoice, maybe I'm out of the office, I get an email that says, you know, I need to approve this item. So I can go ahead and click Review in Fishbowl2Go. It's going to launch Fishbowl2Go automatically and immediately present me with the item that I need to approve or reject in workflow. So right from the app, I click on that, I see the item. Now I can say, all right, it looks good. I can say confirm that I want to approve it, and now that item is out of workflow. So with about right from my phone, I can now review an item and approve it in workflow. So why would you want to approve things mobily and through workflow? Again, it's about reducing the time something's waiting around, moving it through the process more quickly. So if you're dealing with invoices, it could be taking better advantage of discounts, having a longer period of time to actually review a contract and make sure that it's accurate, reducing errors, because if something waits till the last minute, people are less likely to be diligent and make sure that it's accurate. They might just say, oh, yep, I think that looks good, and push it through. Some other uses we have seen would be customer responsiveness. So if you have documents you're going to be sending out to your clients, there might be internal people who need to review those before they can be released. The faster you can turn that around, the better customer service you provide. That means happier customers. It could mean you're getting quotes out more quickly, turning around business more quickly, closing deals sooner in the sales organization. It's really about improving your productivity. So with workflow review, using the app, you can review an item in about 5 taps. There's no scrolling. You don't have to zoom into a menu, try to find the item you want, type stuff in. You can provide comments if you reject an item. But on the web, if you were to use the web browser on a phone and try to log into WebCenter to review an item, the app already has your credentials, so you don't have to log in. With the web, you're going to have to sign in, browse around, try to pick the menu, scroll and zoom, and it's a lot less convenient user experience. I'm going to walk through another example of another common way you would see the check-in profiles used. So groups who have workers on job sites may want to allow people to associate items with a certain project file. So in this case, we're going to create a project for Project 3097 for Acme Corp. And so in this case, users are presented with the title and the project number. And in this case, the project number is going to be pre-populated, but we're still going to display it to them from the device. And then in the background, it's going to get the Department of Manufacturing, the correct client being Acme Corp, and then the language of English. And it's going to be checked in as documentation associated with that project. So then, for example, if you're on the job site and you need to record an issue, you can go to your phone app, you can open up FishbowlToGo and say, I want to check it in from my camera. You can take a picture of the issue. In this case, oh, there's a hole in this wall. This needs to be patched and fixed. Take a picture. Use that. Now you're going to pick your Acme Corp project to check it into. So you're going to associate this picture with that project. Go ahead and provide a title. Oh, there's a hole in the east wall. You need to report that as an issue. And then check it in. And then from here, this would be the associated metadata that that item would now have in the content server, even though all you had to type in was a title. It gets checked in as documentation associated with Project 3097 for Acme Corp. Again, this saves time. Common saying, a picture is worth 1,000 words. Being able to easily contribute photos makes for richer documentation. In some cases, it makes it easier than it used to be because you don't have to transfer from a camera when you get back to the office, plug it in, transfer it, and then go check each of those in. In other cases, it's going to encourage richer documentation because maybe in the past it wasn't easy to take photos and associate them with projects or events, so it just didn't happen. Now it's easier to do. Again, comparatively, checking in a photo from the app is about 7 taps. Doing it on the web is 10. And then obviously the metadata is configurable, but a general use case on an app you would probably provide users 1 or 2 fields, whereas on the web, it could be 6 to, I'm sure all of you have seen the check-in forms that are scrollable, long, 20-plus fields. And one more value-add feature I just wanted to cover was the ability to open in. So, for example, with a native file, if I have a native PowerPoint file, for example, of a presentation, I can go ahead and view that right in the app. But from here, I can actually open it in something like Keynote, which allows me to use the VGA adapter and actually present that right from my phone. So for something like this, you could actually go on site, do a presentation to a client or another business unit or others in your organization without having to carry anything but your phone and VGA adapter. So kind of to summarize the difference between doing something like this with an app versus trying to do over mobile web, the app is really designed to be simpler, quicker. It also allows you to do certain kinds of native integrations that you just can't do through the mobile web. So for example, being able to check an invoice in from email or some other type of document that might be in an email or in another application. There is not a way to get at those files through the mobile web browser, but with an app, you're able to open that in and then get that checked in. And as I mentioned, it's really about eliminating scrolling, encouraging adoption, because if it's really hard to do, chances are a lot of people just won't do it. If you make it easy, it's going to encourage better adoption. And then, of course, security. So we mentioned discouraging ad hoc workarounds. By using WebCenter, you're keeping that one repository. You're not moving things to some other mobile solution. You're not encouraging or by default not providing, and then users are going to go around and put it out on Dropbox. You're using secure content management, so people only see the items they're supposed to see, the things that they search for, the things that are in their workflow. It's still within IT control. You can have it still exist inside the firewall and use a VPN client on the phone. It's pretty easy to set that up, so in higher security situations, you can even keep it inside the firewall. You have control to who can access what. And by giving users really a way to access their content, it's going to discourage them to try to put it out somewhere else where that content really shouldn't be. So what's the difference? I know Jason mentioned and I mentioned this idea of a free and premium version. So the difference between those is with the free version is what you get when you initially go out on the iTunes or Android store and download the app. So with that, you can search for content, you can add things to favorites, you can view basic document info. You can open the web viewable file in other apps. You can email files, and then you can view the list of items that are awaiting your review in workflow. And then with the premium features, you get all of that plus the ability to have a richer document info, so you can see using profiles all the other custom metadata and additional labels that you might have associated with certain types of documents. The big ones are check-in and workflow. So with the premium app, you can check in photos and video. You can also do check-in from other apps, like I showed with the invoice example. It also includes some additional custom services. So the premium version is enabled by a custom component, which I'll talk about. Part of that is services to make even some of the basic features like searching more efficient. So you're not transmitting as much data. You're going to get faster search results, and you're going to use less bandwidth on a mobile device. In addition to, so I said check-in and workflow are the big ones. So with the premium version, you can view workflow info and comments. You can view the items that are in workflow, approve them, and reject them, and then get access to the native files as well. So the deployment process for this app is pretty simple. For the free version, all you have to do is go out to the public stores and download it, and then type your server address in. And I will say that in order for the app to work, you have to be able to get at your content server. So if it's not externally available, you'd have to be on an internal Wi-Fi network or connecting first through your phone's VPN and then to the server. So the free version is simply a download and install. And then to enable the premium features, the way that it works is it's one app. So you don't actually have to install a different app. Your users wouldn't install a different app. But you buy an enterprise license for FishbowlToGo. And the way that that works is there's a component that would be installed on the Oracle Web Center content server, and that would enable the premium features for all users who are connecting to that particular server. So once that premium component is installed, then anyone who's already downloaded the free versions off iTunes or Google Play would now have the capabilities to take advantage of the premium functionality like check-in and workflow. So I'll go ahead and open it up for questions. I believe we have some people monitoring the questions.
So thanks everyone for the questions. We're just kind of cycling through those right now. Kim, did we have another poll question? I was curious. I thought.
Oh yes, I will launch that. Well,
why don't we open the poll question as we kind of cycle through these questions here? But again, folks, if you want to ask a question, just type it in the GoToMeeting chat or question box there on your right. It should be in the right panel. And as Kim's accessing the polls, and I believe the next poll question is open.
So I have a question here about accessing ECM behind a company firewall. And essentially, depending on really the way or the underlying meaning of that question, so as far as rolling this out wide scale, there's two kind of options. One would be obviously to expose it outside of the firewall. The other, which we've seen people do, is to use the VPN clients that are built in with the devices. And so generally the way that works is you go ahead and set that up once on your device. I know, for example, on the iPhone there's a built-in client. You can also get like a SonicWall client to do it. You put in the configuration, which would generally come from your organization's IP as far as your organization's specific VPN configuration. But you type that in once and you save it, and then you just can turn on the VPN connection on and off. And when that's on, you'd have access to all the normal things you would behind the firewall as if you were in the office. Yeah, there's a question about comments for approve and declines on workflow. So we do have the ability to provide comments when you would approve or when you would reject a workflow. And I believe the ability to provide approval comments is not out-of-the-box functionality of WebCenter, but it actually is a functionality of one of Fishbowl's other components, Workflow Solutions set. And so we have on our roadmap to provide an integration between those in order to provide approval comments in addition to the reject comments, which are already included with the application.
So Kim, the poll's been open for 2 minutes. I don't know if you wanted to close it.
I'll go ahead and close that.
Yeah, and then we'll kind of keep going through the questions here. I think you have a few more to get through. We do have 5 minutes left too. So if you did want to send a question as well, there's some contact information here. And one of the things to think about is if you have a different use case than what Kim shared or what I mentioned at the beginning, maybe think about discussing your use case from a Fishbowl-to-Go or mobile application standpoint, or your mobile strategy in general with Fishbowl Solutions, and we can look at either aligning you with the out-of-the-box applications that we have, or some of those custom applications that we could develop as well.
We do have a question about external accounts, and I have someone in the room who said they will follow up after the webinar on that particular question. We also have a question about how do I get pricing for an enterprise license. So the way you would do that, I just switched to a new slide, is you would actually go ahead and just send an email to sales@fishbowlsolutions.com or give us a call, and the number is up on the screen. And we do have special introductory pricing available for customers who contact us before the end of June. So if you are interested, I would certainly encourage you to do that. We also would be happy to set up a custom meeting with anyone on your team if you want to see a specific use case or walk more detail how a certain piece of functionality works. I do have a question on here about the difference between the free and the paid versions, but I'm wondering if that was probably covered later on during the presentation. So if you still have a question about something that's unclear with that, maybe go ahead and type in a follow-up in the input box.
That information is available on the Fishbowl-to-Go webpage as well, right, Kim?
Yep, and it's just fishbowlsolutions.com/fishbowl-to-go.
Okay, just a couple more minutes here. We want to be mindful of everyone's time, and we'll look to stop the broadcast or webinar right at the top of the hour. Any other questions, Kim, that you wanted to get through?
We do have one last question about branding. So the premium license doesn't include custom branding, but custom branding is certainly something Fishbowl has done in the past for other clients. So I would say if that's an important piece of functionality, certainly give us a call and we can talk about ways that we could do that. And there's a question too about e-signature, so I'll see you after the webinar about that question. Oops. And I believe we've gotten to most of the questions here. We will put a blog post up on the C4 blog, which is c4.fishbowlsolutions.com, summarizing these questions and any that we didn't get to. So I believe we are right at the hour, so I'll go ahead and close out the call, but thank you all so much for joining us. And certainly, if you have any questions, you can send an email to sales, or you can send an email to info@fishbowlsolutions.com. We will follow up with you.